Welcome to Healthy Pets, Healthy Owners. I'm your host, Dr. Edmund Sulkowski. And I'd like to welcome to today's show Lisa Alley-Zarkades.
Well, thank you
Lisa,
very much.
Good
Thank
to
you
see
for
you again.
having me. Yes, it's my pleasure.
Lisa, you're with E.T. Horn out of California,
Yes.
but you're the Vice President of Commercial Development, but you are with a special division, in my eyes, animal wellness.
Yes.
What do you do in that division, and specifically, what do you do for that division?
Well, originally when I formed our animal wellness business unit, I was trying to take a concept that we were doing in other industries and bringing it to the animal nutrition space. Obviously, I have a passion for animals and their health and longevity. And over time, I became really more of a innovation driver. I wanted to reach out to industry to learn more about it, be more involved, have an opportunity to educate. So part of my role today is to kind of be the face of the group, to say this is our passion is education, as well as doing the right thing for our pets in terms of health and nutrition.
And education is key. That's the paramount thing, because if you don't have the knowledge, then how can you have a good result?
Right.
And you and I met at SuperZoo. Tell us what SuperZoo is.
SuperZoo is a giant industry trade show, one of the largest in the countries for retailers, focusing mostly on specialty retailers that come to purchase new innovative products that are there. So the people at the booths are actually holding their product line for them to come by and take a look at. It's also a place to get educated on how to run a store, and it's also to get educated on what's going on in terms of raw materials and new products.
And you had the School of Animal Wellness there. You had the School of Animal Wellness. Tell us a little bit about the School of Animal Wellness.
Well, I sit on the board for the World Pet Association, who puts on SuperZoo, as well as some other trade shows, Atlanta Pet Fair, Aquatic Experience, and also the America's Family Pet Expo. And as a only member involved on the ingredient side of things, I propose a concept of having a school of animal wellness nutrition separate from the education forums, or really just to help retailers, how do you run your store. I figured that if we could have brought it into the center of the show and we could showcase that we want to bring in the scientists and the education people to the show. And so Horn is a sponsor, and I set the curriculum, and I find the speakers. People reach out to me, like you reached out to me about what will we do next year, can I be a speaker? And the whole idea is to bring in people from industry with either a PhD or a doctor, academia, or a very strong industry leader, and talk about subjects with the facts and the science behind them to help give people an opportunity to hear that and to ask questions.
I of course, was a speaker this year, SuperZoo 2014, and I found it to be incredibly amazing, because you had these people that came in for 1, 2, 3 days to Las Vegas to look at products, the innovative products that are being featured and so forth, and to talk to salespeople. So their time is very limited. And SuperZoo, I had been to SuperZoo a few years in the past when I was manufacturing my own supplements for dogs with Healthy Pet Systems, and I was amazed back then, but it had grown and grown over those years, and it almost to the point of being overwhelming. And then lecturing there, they took their time to sit and hear someone provide education information to them, and it was just amazing. The rooms were full of people taking notes, asking questions, and then I proceeded to have months of emails after that. And
your classes were very well attended in standing room only, so I think we're going to expand next year.
And they're looking for information. They want results, and it wasn't, I want results because I want to sell product and make more money. It was, I want results so that I can help my customers with their animals.
Right.
And that was the motivation. And it was absolutely amazing.
Well, what I love about this industry is that people really do care about their pets. They're part of the family. This is a huge transition. A lot of pet parents out there So the idea is always be striving for doing what's best for the animal. And so it's really important to help consumers get a good education and try to take the emotion out of the decision as much as possible by providing them some of the facts. And there's a lot of stuff on the internet and the blog, and people are getting confused about what to do for their pets. And so this is just an opportunity to say, well, let's just go back to the scientific community and talk a little bit about what we know, and then let consumers ask questions when they're confused about something.
Right.
Because really, you want to help them make the best decision for them and their pet. Whether they need to talk to their vet or an animal nutritionist, they want to change the food they're on, they want to start taking a supplement, and how do they go about making those decisions? You want to have some kind of scientific basis for that as much as possible.
And you pulled in, I never like to call anybody an expert. There are people that have more information than other people. For me to use the term expert means you're at the pinnacle and you're done, and it's never the case. You're learning
Right.
all the time, and things that you thought you knew because that was the science at that time have changed. So, but you brought in people with such knowledge, and a variety of people. I mean, you had veterinarians there, you had a dentist and pseudo supplement guy, that's what I'll call myself. You had people from all aspects of industries related to animals. And to sit there and listen to these people talk and express their opinions sometimes, their knowledge all the time, was just incredible.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward, I'm going to be lecturing there again next year. I'm looking forward to all the other people that are going to be there as well. It was just a nice experience.
Well, great. I love hearing that, and that's really what we're trying to provide. It's not a sales pitch format. It's really just talking about what's out there, what's coming, what's developing, and by having the professionals there, they can discuss it, because even though things are always changing and we're getting new information,
Right.
it's important to consider that. We don't want to stray too far from what we know that is pretty sound, but when new things come along, we want to vet it out between all the experts, and I think that's great. I heard a number of the experts talking and going off on a subject I didn't expect them to talk about maybe 5 or 6 years ago. So the new trends that are happening definitely are intriguing to the industry.
And have you found that one of those trends is going to a more natural state with products and approaches?
Well, I think people are looking for a fresher food. Let's just say that, I mean, think about the trends with the humans. I mean, we went to everything processed, everything fast food, and now we're trying to going, oh, we want some things fresh. We don't want to eat like that. I want to prepare it myself. I want to have a role in it. So I think that's what we're seeing with the pets, is the traditional kibble, even though it was all the dog was supposed to get and it's supposed to be balanced nutrition, but now people want to play a role in the preparation of the food. If they do, they can't, they aren't animal nutritionists, so they need to make sure that what they do still provides the basics of nutrition, and then if they want to modify or provide a higher quality, they're willing to spend the money for fresh foods, fresh food delivery. All those trends are very interesting, and I think they're here to stay, but not everybody can afford that. So what range of the spectrum are you as a consumer, from the person that can't afford a lot of expensive food to the person that's willing to have fresh gourmet food delivered at home to their dog every day?
Mm-hmm.
But dogs obviously grew up eating fresh raw meat and other contents of the animals as they evolved. So they weren't used to having cooked food, but they have adapted. And so we have to be careful of making changes too quickly, because their systems are very susceptible to stress.
Absolutely, and they have very small livers, and
Right.
and we think a liver is a liver, but it's really not that.
Yeah.
And you have to watch how much and how you introduce things.
Right.
And so, but SuperZoo. Well, how many people would you say attended SuperZoo?
I think we had almost maybe 15,000 attendees, so it was the highest number so far. It's been growing quite a bit. We're actually in the top tier of trade shows in the country in terms of growth.
And what's nice, those people are animal lovers,
I know.
and everybody's having a good time, and it's just people are smiling and talking and going from booth to booth and lecture to lecture, just having a grand old time.
And there's dogs walking around.
Dogs
and
everywhere.
Cats, and you know, I even took my mini horse a couple of years, and it was a big draw. People just want to connect with animals. It's so obvious.
Yeah. So Horn, and specifically Animal Wellness Division, you're a raw material supplier for anyone that would want to make supplements or put formulas together for products for animals.
Yes.
So where do these raw, you know, I'll tell you a story. When I decided I was going to manufacture vitamins for dogs and cats, and I started formulating, I had no clue where these things came from. I had no clue what they were. I was used to walking into a health food store and seeing this bottle with labeling on there, and there was a little capsule in there, or a gel cap, or a powder, or whatever it was, and you just bring it home and oblivious to any of the processes. And then I had an immediate eye-opening experience when I sat down and said with the company and said, "Can you?" And they're like, "Yeah, we have to source this over here. We have to source this over here. This comes wet. This comes dry. This has to be dried." And I'm looking at the deer in the headlights, and I'm thinking, what am I getting myself into? But quick learner and figured it all out, and so, but I want to talk to you a little bit about that, and how do we get that capsule? How do we get that pill? And the process that's involved in going there. I mean, you really don't even think about it, but it's on a tree somewhere, it's on a plant somewhere,
right,
and it has to be extracted from that. And really, I think that's not in the average mindset. Mm-hmm. So I'd like you to explain that. We're going to go to a commercial break here in a second, so I don't want to start that there. Okay. But how long have you been with Horn?
I've been with Horn for 26 years, and I've been in the industry for 32 years.
32 years.
Yeah.
Right. Well, please stay tuned. We're going to go for a quick commercial break here. You are watching Healthy Pets, Healthy Owners with our special guest, Lisa Alley-Zarkades.
If you're like most families, you probably have video game fans in your home. But not every game is right for every kid, which is where the ESRB ratings come in. They help parents make informed decisions for their kids. And there's an easy-to-use mobile app that gives you detailed info on specific game ratings. Video game consoles have parental controls that you can set to block certain games by age rating, so they get all the fun, and you get peace of mind.
Welcome back to Healthy Pets, Healthy Owners. I'm your host, Dr. Edmund Sulkowski, and we're here with Lisa Alley-Zarkades from Horn and the School of and Animal Wellness Division with her School of Animal Wellness at SuperZoo. Lisa, we were talking before break about the raw materials and where they come from. I laugh internally all the time when I recall my exposure to supplements and so forth. Where do we really get all of these nutrients that we want to take in pill form or capsule form?
Well, ingredients come from a variety of places. Obviously, some are from plants and plant sources. Also, they can come from extractions of oils. They can come from synthesis, which a lot of vitamins are produced by synthesis.
Which is?
Which would be a chemical reaction to make the compound. So it just really depends what it is, but yes, when you go to source a raw material, it can come from different parts of the world. It's made different places, stored different places, and has a shelf life. And distribution around the country is always the challenge of where it is closest to you.
So a lot of these products come from China?
A lot of your basic vitamins are made in China, and that's just the reality of today. A lot of the human vitamins, that's where they're produced. Many of the major vitamin companies from years past have built elaborate, superior plants in China, and they're run by their corporation, and the people are trained and have follow all the HACCP rules and all the guidance. And then any products that come from China on the human side are supposed to go through a certification process once it arrives in the U.S. So the U.S. for the food industry and the supplement industry has done a very good job with monitoring that.
Have there been issues from time to time?
There have been issues on the pet side, and this creates a mistrust of ingredients coming from China because the rules maybe were more lax. There was less transparency about the testing and checking of raw ingredients, and most of that's changing or will be changing because of the Food Safety Modernization Act, and all plants will have to operate the same way.
So tell us about that act.
It's quite involved. It's going into effect the next year or so. They're already taking steps to set up all the bodies and regulatory agencies in order to handle it. But basically you have to monitor, you have to have complete transparency of where did the raw material come from, its whole history. You have to have all these things in place. You cannot, you have to provide full access to your plant and your records and all your safety and all your micro. So it's very, a lot of paperwork and a lot of certification will be part of it. So it does create a lot of extra cost for all of us. But the whole idea is to get everybody on the same playing field and really undercover the people that aren't doing it correctly.
So hopefully that'll make for a safer product.
Oh, definitely. I think everybody's looking forward to that. It's a huge undertaking, but ultimately we all agree that, you know, there needs to be certain things in place in order to ensure safety.
When you source the raw materials, they come in different forms from my recollection, and I remember there was dry, there was wet, there was products that became dry in huge dryers.
Right.
Could you tell us a bit about that in the process?
Yeah, sometimes a product, how it's made initially isn't how it needs to be used later, and so many, in the supplement side, so many things need to become a dry product in order to be either compressed into a tablet or put into a 2-piece hard shell, or mixed with other powders. So you might have to dry the product on a type of oil or a carbohydrate in order to make it dry. But then there's products that are still in the liquid form. Maybe that's the only way they're available. And so then you have to figure out in your process how to incorporate a liquid into your product.
I was amazed when I went into the manufacturer for my products. It was like a hospital setting, like a surgical room. Everybody was garbed like that. Nothing as far as skin pretty much showing anywhere, shoes covered, gowns. One area they were actually producing in, and we weren't even allowed to go in there because we couldn't contaminate the product.
Right.
And you said, I think these are supplements,
Mm-hmm.
but they're conducted pretty much the same way that pharmaceutical drugs are manufactured.
Right. In order to be a supplement company, you have to be certified by the FDA, and you have to have certain practices in place. So we have a granulation facility where we just granulate calcium carbonate to make it directly compressible, and literally it's an OTC FDA certified plant. So you have certain practices that you have to have. It has to be clean, and you can't have any contamination. You have to control your airflow. You can't have hair get into the product. You can't have jewelry, pieces that could fall in. So there's a lot of, it's good manufacturing practices, but it is required.
And then another aspect that I didn't even consider was the security. Even get in the front door when you have an appointment was an operation. And then one day I had an appointment, and a big purchaser had come in, and we were the place was under lockdown basically. We weren't, because they were exposing the formula, and it was such a big secret, and we had to reschedule my appointment because of the situation. So it's a tightly controlled operation.
Yeah, there's proprietary formulas certainly, and companies want to go out of their way to protect a client, because many products are made for someone.
Yeah.
This co-packing is very much how this industry operates. There's only so many people that make tablets, make two-piece hard shell, make liquids, powders, gels, and so the client wants to have their own unique formula, and they don't want someone to match it, mimic it, copy it.
Right.
So there's a lot of things in place, confidentiality put in place.
Yeah,
in
it
order
was,
to have something like that happen.
You brought with you AAFCO book, which reminds me of like I have a test tomorrow.
Yes.
I have a book I've got to go study. But this is basically the guidelines for the pet industry, supplement and food.
Mostly for food and treats. The supplement category has been this no man's land, but this book is put out by the American Association of Feed Control Officials. It was designed many years ago when feed used to go commerce across a state line, and they wanted to make sure that you weren't bringing in some bad feed from another state to get rid of it in another state, and so it's before we had the Food Modern Safety Act, so this is pre all that. And over time, it's the way that we actually govern how animals are fed, whether it's a production animal or your pet. So it's all animals, and they've set up the whole little Bible of guidelines of what should be in a feed nutritionally, what's approved, what's not approved, what you can say about it. They do approve new products. It takes a very long time. Each state has its own regulatory official that decides if you're complying with the guidelines, and that causes a little gray area, which is a real challenge.
So this is a federal government agency?
Well, they report to the CVM.
Which CVM
is? This is Center for Veterinary Medicine. Okay. It's just part of FDA. But AAFCO cannot actually enforce anything. They can't shut a plant down. But if they went into a store and found a product that was mislabeled based on what they interpreted in this book, they can tell, they pull that product and they contact the manufacturer and they send them a stop ship letter. Basically says you cannot sell in our state any longer, you're violating our guidelines.
Well, if they're not a government agency, how can they do that?
Well, because they're actually a volunteer body that's enforcing this handbook, but they do have jurisdiction in their state. So they can say, look, you can't sell in our state. Doesn't mean you can't sell in the USA. So it's the state has their own control over how you feed animals. And some of them are a lot more strict about how they interpret the book. And there's a gray area for some. And it does provide challenges, certainly if you want to get your product in all 50 states and one state does not agree with your labeling. And this can happen with treats, functional treats, and food. But supplements is a whole other area which generally they sort of take a sidestep on and let another group handle that.
So a functional treat, again, being something that has some additional nutritional value.
Right. Yes. Is it actually providing your basic nutrition? That would be considered under AAFCO. If you're making some special dietary statement about the product, it's not listed in the handbook, they consider that a drug because you're trying to treat disease. So there's a separate body in our industry that helps regulate that, and they're all a volunteer board of industry professionals in the supplement industry called NASC, National Association of Supplement Council. And they monitor our own industry and try to find people maybe that aren't following the rules that they've set up, just so AAFCO won't come in and pull all this away from them. If we all comply, if everybody follows these guidelines, then it's better for our industry. And you want to kind of take out the people that are mislabeling, misbranding, making health claims that you can't make, treating disease. So you have to be very conservative in your approach. And this is the existing landscape today.
And that's true for the human side of supplements as well. So this was initially started because we were feeding the animals that we were eating, and then it sort of shot to the supplements and treats and pet food that they're eating.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that was interesting.
It's a whole other world, and it takes a lot of education and consulting support to understand this book. So if someone's getting into the industry, it's good to know about this organization so you don't do a bunch of work and only to find out you can't launch your product.
Yeah. All right. Lisa, we're coming to a close of the show. I thank you again for coming all the way from California to
thank you
to
for
appear
having
and
me.
to
It's been a pleasure. I've really enjoyed it.
To appear on our show to inform our audience on things that we just really don't think about or know. It was absolutely fascinating. Thank you again. Thank you so much for watching Healthy Pets, Healthy Owners. I'm your host, Dr. Edmund Sulkowski, and I just want to give a little acknowledgement to Tucker, who's so good sitting in my lap all day. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Remember, a healthy pet is a happy pet and a healthy owner as well. Thank you. Bye-bye.